All right, my beautiful motherfuckers. That's how I like to call you guys, my beautiful motherfuckers. Super excited to bring you something really, really awesome. I've got Abul Hussain with me here, and my man here is a battle-tested warrior. Like he's been doing the agency game 15 plus years. We were actually dropped a name earlier, Corey Rudel, who's like literally the godfather of internet marketing. Most of you guys won't know him because you got in way too late. But Corey Rudel is like he was Frank Kern's and I'm blanking on John's last name. I can see it. The $1 Million Day, John. Why can't I think of his name?
Reese.
John Reese. He was their mentor long before that was even a thing. So like we're going way, way back. So this is a guy who's been learning to make money online, really, if you include the dabbling phase, for almost 20 years. In that time has, like me, seen every evolution, ran an SEO agency, and then realized how crazy Google was and how hard that is. Has built websites, has switched to paid media, and seen all of the things. And I know a lot of you guys are basically, well, firstly, I should say, Abul, welcome before I continue bragging about you.
I really love that intro. I mean, I don't go X-rated too much, but
well, I like to keep it real around here.
Well, no, Frank, do you go by Frank or Frankie? What do you go by?
Yes, I do both. I'm actually the fourth of my family, and so the youngest is always called Frankie, and I might have a fifth on the way. I don't know.
Oh, that's amazing. I'll go by Frankie. It sounds a lot more endearing.
I dig it more. So let's go.
We connected a couple of months ago, and we were talking about the Warrior Forum and how it was back in the days before you have your teenage gurus pop up on the market. So, oh no, it's good to connect with an OG.
Love it. We are OGs in this space. Actually, it's interesting too, because my friends who've been in crypto the longest say the same thing. They're like, the longer I'm in crypto, the less I understand. I'm like, I feel like I know 1% of the space, but you look up to them like they're gods. Like we're still figuring out too. Like, I don't want to make you guys feel like we've got it all figured out, but we've got a lot of helpful things over 15, 20 years. And that's actually why I wanted to bring you on, because I get a lot of people who come to me, and this is actually something I mentioned to you. I'm a little surprised about, because when I wrote the book, it was about really running an already established agency and learning to cut out the meetings and the phone calls and things like that and growing it. But the explosion that's come into the market that you've mentioned is we've got a whole bunch of people that are building agencies from scratch, going through the freelancers. And as we talked about a little bit off air, like freelancers only make every single mistake ever, right? Yeah. We know, because we got those arrows in.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
So I wanted to bring you on for a really exciting topic, which is getting to a 6-figure agency as quickly as possible. And this is like, just to put the little asterisks before I let you kind of talk for a little bit, is, we didn't want to bring you guys some like instant push a button in your underwear, like bullshit, get rich quick, but like the real ins and outs of actually growing this business, but doing it quickly and doing all the stupid things. So I think maybe one of the best places to start, Abul, is I'd love to hear your thoughts on, for those people in the freelancer stage, just the big horrible mistakes that we kind of see again and again, and what not to do.
Well, I'll start with the first mistake, and this is again from my own experience. We pick up one client, we celebrate, and we stop prospecting, right? We go into delivery mode, and then we are spending all of our time delivering for this client. They probably become a pain. Anyway, we part companies either on good terms or on bad terms, and then we have no pipeline. So we're going out in prospecting mode. It's feast and famine, right? That's the common mistake that freelancers make, especially those who are not established with a network that is constantly referring them work. The times they find a client, they're eating. When they don't, they're back on the ramen noodles. So that's the first place to start. The second place is
ramen noodles, by the way.
Oh no, I love it. My daughter loves it, so it's all good.
But we want fancy ramen noodles, not the 33 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. We want pieces of chicken in there rather than the chicken flavor,
We want the Japanese noodle house kind of ramen, not the 33-cent hidden in the back of the supermarket aisle.
No, absolutely. The second thing is a lot of freelancers are way too stretched. They're offering too many different services for too many different markets, too many different audiences. So the way you correct that, and the way I went about correcting that, and you have all heard of this, I hope, it is to really hone in on that one niche that you serve.
Oh my God, so true. Sorry, continue.
And then coming up with that one offer that helps them but well, that delivers results for them. Because often when you're a freelancer, your relationship is quite transactional with the business owner. They've brought you in for a website, you work on the website, job is done, whether it works or not. And that is one of the reasons why I evolved from being a web designer to being the SEO guy as well. Because, you know, you can build a Rolls Royce for people, but if it's parked in the garage, nobody knows about it. And this is the same thing as having a beautiful website, very elegant, but there's no traffic coming to it. Nobody's finding you, nobody's buying from you. So I very quickly realized that, you know what, businesses really want, and this is how you can charge them the big retainers. It's to deliver a result. It's for you to become their trusted marketing advisor, to become the trusted business growth advisor. So it doesn't matter what the discipline is, you can bring it all together like that general contractor and then deliver that result for them.
Yeah.
And that's what you really should be focused on, creating that result mechanism, whether it be you build a landing page out and then you run ads to it, or you do some lead generation campaign. You need to have that one results-based transformational offer for that one niche, because then you can go down the franchise model, as I like to call it. You know, you look at McDonald's, they invented the Big Mac and the fries, and it worked in the local market, and they just took that model to the next city, to the next state, to the rest of the whole, internationally. Now, I've had McDonald's at a couple of countries, and there's very little difference in the Big Mac, right? So you need to find your Big Mac and fries so that you can scale quickly. Because when you're building a website one day and you're doing an SEO project the next, and then you're doing something with paid ads, and you're working in you're working for the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you need to learn what those industries are. So there's always a learning curve. Whereas with one industry that you're quite passionate about and you know there's a profit in there, you just need to do that. Learning curve is only once, right?
Yeah.
And then
can I just add in that?
Absolutely,
that I see a lot of people who have like a website that's like this gigantic menu. And what ends up happening too is, like, when you do get those moments where you get clients and you mentioned and you're in the delivery stage, what ends up happening is, because you're doing something different for everybody, it's like basically near impossible to hire somebody, right? Like I always say, like, we're not doing 50 things for 50 different clients. We're doing one thing for 50 different clients. And when you understand that, what ends up happening is, like you said, one transformational offer is copy and paste. You actually get to like repeat what you're doing. And so it scales far easier. And then also you can be like more intentional about prospecting. Because if you're just like, who are the business owners who need any digital marketing service anywhere? It's too big of a question to answer. But if you're like, well, I have this one little transformational offer for an orthodontic dentist, you know, how can I go and reach out intentionally to the orthodontic dentist? You can be like, oh, there's an orthodontic dentist conference.
You've got the bullseye, right? You know, they're in your crosshairs now. Whereas before you're taking this scattergun approach. And no, at that point, you've actually kind of, you know, jumped into, what do you call it? The bit of what I was going to say about, then you can hire people and you can train them up, and the learning curve for them is simple, because then you've got this conveyor belt that you build where they're delivering different parts of this transformational offer for you. So they don't need to learn about dentists one day and lawyers the next, and then chiropractors the day after. So you have a very simple delivery system that also you can scale as well. So you can scale your revenues. You can also scale your teams a lot easier by having this lean.
I always say a custom agency, just don't want to add real quick, a custom agency where you do anything for anybody like you described. If you have 5-10 clients, you'll do more work than a single transformational offer with 50 clients. It's hard to wrap your head around, but I've been in both stages, and you can work like 80 hours a week with like 6 custom clients. And you can work like 10 hours a week with 50 single offer clients, because you have like a conveyor belt, as you described.
Yep, that cookie cutter approach works. So I think that's where people need to get their head around. They might have heard it a million times, but until you really kind of understand it and kind of ingrain it, you're not really going to make much progress, and you're going to be running around in circles trying to serve anyone and everyone. And then I suppose leading on from that, you know, that's the big mistake. It's the second mistake is the prospecting process. There is no intent behind prospecting. So one day you might be sending 20 emails that you found on Google, and then you're reaching out to 20 different business owners from the Facebook groups or from Facebook Marketplace. And then you just decide you're going to do some cold calling. There is literally no marketing plan there. There is no strategy in place for you to get in front of the right audience. So if you don't get the audience right with the niche and the offer selection part, your prospecting is all over the place. And again, I've been there. I've literally randomly searched for high ticket niches on Google, seen who's advertising, and then literally tried to drop them an email.
All right, let's write dentist today. Okay. Somebody said we should cold call roofers. Let's cold call somebody said you can SEO on YouTube. Let's make a video on about it.
Well, that's it. And then the question I still get a lot of people asking day in, day out, even in my group, it's like, what's the best niche? Right? There is no best niche. It's really what you make of it. There is no easy niche. Every niche sucks. It has its own challenges. It's whether you've got the tenacity to really see through it. So kind of not having that focus leads to a scattergun approach to marketing. And then they do not have a proper sales process. When they do get on a sales call with someone, they have nothing relevant to show, right? If you've kind of built a website for your local butcher, their lawyer's probably not going to be very interested in what results the butcher has achieved. They want to see what other, PI lawyer you've worked with, how you've improved their ranking, then what impact it has actually had on their business. So then your sales process is skewed. And then you're on the delivery hamster wheel. If they give you a chance, they'll be like, you've presented yourself as a kind of a commodity where you are trading your hours for the dollar because you're providing a service which can be priced up as a commodity. You've not sold yourself as an expert. You're on that hamster wheel of, okay, let's deliver the service now before we find our next bespoke client. So I think, with the freelancer on the hamster wheel, these areas are what they actually need to fix to be able to go from freelancer to agency owner, to be able to scale as rapidly as possible to a 6-figure run rate.
Yeah. Can I just add on that? Like, I'll tell you, I have some pretty advanced people that have come through our mastermind. Like, I have one guy in mind who's like just a Google AdWords fucking wizard. And he loves solving Google AdWords problems and being able to do anything. And we got to scaling, and he loves kind of like doing all these different things for people. And I said, you have to realign your values from like thinking it's really awesome to be able to solve any business owner's problem anywhere, to your real value is owning a system, owning an asset, owning a machine that produces results for people. And so that's what you're building. And in order to build that, you need a bunch of people with very similar needs, wants, and desires, as you put it, one transformational offer. And when you see that, the value you bring to them isn't like, look at me and all the problems I can solve, but look at the system here that I've already created for you that's basically plug and play, that we've created so you can get a hamburger in 15 seconds that'll be as consistent anywhere around the world with some really salty ass French fries that are going to be delicious. And if you like, and this is a term I use a lot in my agency, there's a big difference between custom and customization. Custom is like, okay, a dentist calls you and says, can you build me a website? And you say yes. And then an e-commerce person says, have you ever ran Facebook ads? And you say, I can do it. And then somebody says, have you ever written emails? And you say, sure. And then, you get a call from your sister-in-law says, have you ever built a website? Can you help me build my website? And you say yes, and that's how you get your work. Then it's really, really hard to go anywhere. That's what custom looks like, and it's very hard to hire people and scale. Customization is more like, I don't really like pickles. Can you take the pickles off my burger? Yeah, okay, we can change the brand colors to that. Sure, we can. If you want to, we could install this extra WordPress plugin, right? Like those kind of things where you're changing like 10% of it, but it's still the same transformational. And customization goes so much further than custom. So like in our agency, we're running the same basic offer for all our lawyers, but like this lawyer gets his picture and his colors and his brand message, and that lawyer gets their colors and their brand message and their picture. But we're doing the same fundamental thing for all of them. And what ends up happening is, it gets you off of that hamster wheel that you called, like where you feast or famine, because whenever you get delivery, you don't have to fucking drown in it, because you get to start the job 90% finished, right? Like we had somebody at our mastermind, to give you an example of like just how powerful this is. He builds cleaning websites, and he built this like really pimped out, amazing, can run quotes for you. And I was like, before you go and try and go get another custom website job from somebody else, I want you to resell this website, not a new one. I want you to take this one and go find somebody else who needs this website. And you
Yep.
can even like make the offer super irresistible. Like, I'll just give it to you for free for 60 days. Try it out. If it's not better, then you don't have to pay me for it, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Especially if they're ranked already, right?
exactly, right. And it's like, so in his case, it was like switching his focus from like, I need to always be reinventing websites for people to like, no, I have one now. I have a great thing that I've built. Now, how do I get it in people's hands? And of course, this person's going to want a different phone number. They're going to want their colors to be a little bit different, and they're going to want their brand message to be a little bit different. But he's selling the same fundamental website over and over. And so his delivery, he starts every job 90% finished before he
Yeah,
begins.
love it. Absolutely love it. No, that is exactly where the newbies, and you know what, it's not just the newbies, because here's the thing. I've come across a couple of agency owners that are doing $10,000-$20,000 a month, right? Purely by accident. I mean, they've not had a proper prospecting system, but they've had a great network. So,
Yeah.
there might be in a small town, and they've got family and friends, they've got a good network, and they're the only game in town, and
Yeah.
they are
Or they
literally
just do really
taking
good work. I've had people like that, like, the person
yeah.
mentioned where they're like really good at AdWords. So called him, he's good with AdWords, but the growth structure hasn't been in place. And
Well,
so,
no, there is no growth.
yeah. And then it limits your income, and you can end up really, for lack of a better term, like really fucking stressed out on the delivery side, like, trying to figure out how you're going to get all this done with no budget to do it.
Absolutely, especially if you're kind of taking on people as well, and you have no consistent revenue beyond like, who is John going to send next week, and if I'm going to pick up something from cousin Sarah or whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that issue there. So the four areas that kind of any agency owner or even a newbie needs to focus on is obviously kind of selecting the right niche and the right transformational offer for that niche, honing down on it and having focus there, the right marketing strategy, the right sales strategy. And obviously kind of you make this up as you go along for some of these people, because everyone has a different style in how they interact with people. Some people are more extroverts than others. Some people sell through a personal brand, others rely on kind of building a business brand. So you kind of systemize your marketing processes, you systemize your sales processes, because what you can't systemize, you cannot delegate, you can't pass it down to someone else. And then the most important part is the whole delivery side of things. How quickly can you and how consistently can you deliver your transformational offer? Because often it's really easy to sign your first client, but then if you can't retain them for more than 30 days, you don't really have a business. And we were joking about this, about how we see on Facebook groups, a lot of people, because the barrier to entry, right, to setting up an agency, it's so low. You've got like 14-year-olds sending out emails from their high school labs, and
totally.
convincing someone to give them money. I've seen posts where people are saying, I've just collected $1,000 from a roofer. What do I do next? How do I run ads? And
I told this roofer I know how to run Facebook ads. Now how do I run Facebook ads? Right? Like,
well, that's it. The amount of deceit, it is really kind of murking the waters a little bit, and it makes it harder for people who have good intentions, who can often do the work. What I often find with a lot of competent, very good freelancers is they can't sell themselves, because they've got this mindset of, billable hours, if you like, speaking in the
and I always say this comes from the fact that, like, to me, nobody who's a trust fund baby wants to become an agency owner. Like, it's always, we all grew up poor and middle class, and it's hard to shake those poor and middle class values that say, I bill for my time. And it's one of those things that, like, if you want to get billed for your time, then you should have a job. If you want to have, like, some freedom and flexibility, then you want to, as you mentioned, think about owning like a McDonaldized system that is going to produce transformational results for people. And it's a very different mindset of what you're trying to do. You're not trying to be paid for your time. Often what ends up happening, from real experience, is that you invest more front end time to create that system. But on the back end, you reap all the rewards of that after you now own a McDonald's. You just basically, like, I joke about this, but this is really true. When I was in high school, I have a friend named Paul. He was the manager of our local McDonald's that was closest to my high school, and he made 40 cents an hour extra compared to the other employees. So he was in baller mode. And I remember I asked him one day, what was your biggest challenge working at McDonald's? Like, what's the hardest thing? And he said, literally, my fingers hurt from counting so much money at the end of the day. Like, after everybody goes home, I have to count all the money, add it all up, and put it in the vault. And, like, 3 straight hours of counting money. I have like carpal tunnel syndrome and my
Wow.
arthritis in my hands. And that's the benefit of owning the system, right? Is you get to be the money counter, but the upfront work is usually kind of skewed.
Well,
And
that's it. And a lot of people don't want to do the work. We've spoken about this. There's a lot of dreamers out there who've, seen a YouTuber with a Lamborghini in their garage, or they've seen some fantastic videos that
roofers got money, man. Just send them this message and they'll send you $1,000 and you can have a
that's
Lamborghini
it.
too.
Right. Copy and paste this, right? You're going to have $10,000 in your bank account in the next 10 days, right?
Refund rates in 60 days. Nobody tells you about that if you do that.
well, that's it. Everyone is selling the dream, right? The agency dream. This is like the big business opportunity right now. This has replaced a lot of these MLM schemes. Start an agency, you can buy a domain for a couple of dollars, right? You can go out pitching, send out emails, pick up your phone, do the calls. It's all free, right?
And it is very true, Abul. Like, I want to, we're not saying that that's not true either. Like, you really can go from, like, for me, it took me 2 years to do it, but I really did, eventually get to a point where I replaced job income and never reached a point where I'm like, I'll never need a job again.
Yes.
As long as I ever live. And I get to live on my terms and my hours. Like, I haven't really used an alarm clock other than like travel days in like a decade and a half. And children wake me up every day. So I shouldn't say like I get to sleep in, but I used to before children get to. So like that kind of lifestyle really is possible, but it definitely, like, anybody who tells you it's not upfront work and like you don't have to build real value and it's all just easy and you can just collect a credit card is bullshit.
No, absolutely. It's definitely a lot of work in the front end. Like I've actually got a client, student, call them what you want, who I've literally worked with for a year, and it took them about 9 months to get their first paying client. And that's not because, what do you call it? The system is broken or it doesn't work. This guy's got 2 other jobs. He's got a family on top, but he's remained committed to the bigger goal of actually wanting to achieve freedom. So for him, he was comfortable going at his own pace. So this is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. This is all about pace. It's not a race. And some people are in more urgent need for money than others, and they will probably go faster. But those of us that are in a comfortable job or something like that, but we want kind of an agency side hustle to build up that college fund or that nest egg for retirement, we can go as slow as we want. The whole idea is to show up every single day and be consistent and accept that, the gratification is going to be delayed, that at the end of the tunnel, I don't think anybody who gets to the end of the tunnel believes in like kind of, the laptop lifestyle. I don't think anybody really wants it after you've done all that work to get to a position to be able to live the laptop lifestyle. It actually gets really boring very quickly.
That's another thing nobody tells you about. Like, once you have like such an efficient machine that you actually have to do very little, you either want to grow that machine or start some kind of side project because you're like, it's boring. I just go to the beach all day.
Well, that's it. especially for high performers, right? Once you've actually sorted that and you've dealt with your big challenges and you've got your business running on autopilot, it becomes really boring. Like you need to constantly be growing, especially entrepreneurs and high performers. We have this inner yearning to be doing more, to be contributing more, to be fulfilling our potential. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he calls it self-actualization. We're trying to transcend here. So
the other thing too, I would just add to that is when you first experience that your service actually really does transform a client's life, then you kind of like it is an addicting thing. I'll tell you, like for me, when I first got started in SEO, I charged $400 a month. Why 400? Because that just seemed like a good number to me. And I never really felt that good about selling even at $400 a month because I didn't really know the impact. It was about 6 months in, and a plastic surgeon, a very good client of mine, called me in Dallas and said that, can you call me? And usually when people wanted me to call them, they wanted me to explain the reports. So I was pretty sure can you tell me what this means? And so I was very apologetic when I got on the phone with him. I was like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'm really sorry. I know you're busy. And he went to me, like, very candidly went, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're more important than my office manager. Like, I've tripled my business since you started doing that. People call all day long and say, we found you on the Google. I have no idea what you're doing, but please, for the love of God, keep doing it.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
love that.
immediately, like the next day, I was like, I should be charging more than $400 a month, and I want to do that more often. And I
Mhm.
think, like to your point, it's a skill set like anything else. Like,
Yeah.
you want to know how to ride a bike really well? Get on a fucking bike and fall down a few
Oh
times,
God.
right? You want to
You
you want
have
to get
no
in shape,
idea
do
how
some
many times I said
push-ups, be really fucking sore, and then get up and do some push-ups again, right? Like the next day, right? And it's no different than doing this agency thing. Is like there's a learning curve to it, and you're gonna make mistakes in it. And when people are looking just to like get rich quick out of it, what ends up happening is usually they make a few sales, piss a few people off, and don't end up with a real business. What you're talking
Mhm.
about is the fastest journey to get to, a consistent 100,000 a year, which I think is like a good baseline to go for, because
Oh yeah,
I know,
it's transformational for most people who can,
yeah,
take 100,000 home a year.
yeah, for me, it was the first time, like when I hit 100 grand, it was it probably took me about 4 years to do it, like start to finish. And, there were no books or courses or mentors that could
Mhm.
shorten those journeys back, at least none that I knew of.
No,
But
you're
when
right
you do
about
it,
that.
like there's a realization, like I never have to go back to that corporate bullshit ever again. Like no boss is ever gonna fucking tell me what to do. I never have to think about a job ever again. I can always, like, I understand the core foundations of this, and I can always, like, provide somebody some value. I know how to sell, I know how to market this thing. And like to your point, a lot of freelancers can be really good at the delivery side, and
Yeah.
often not know how to sell it. And that's kind of where I began, where I was like, I have this really good SEO thing. Every time somebody hires me, they seem to really like it, but I don't know the first thing about getting somebody
Mm.
to hire me in the first place. Curious to know, Abul, if there's any more like kind of the big mistakes you see that we should probably mention before we. Um,
Oh, I think the biggest mistakes are on that front end. To be honest, right? I mean, I think that there's a kind of other mistakes that agency owners make, which is hiring too fast. And on the flip side, it's not hiring fast enough that they
yeah,
start burning out when they're trying to do everything themselves. Because often, they forget that kind of 10% of $1 million is better than 100% of 50 grand where
yeah,
you're doing everything,
yeah,
and that's the mindset that you need to have, that, to grow in a compound way, you need to sacrifice your margin at the beginning when you're bringing people in to help you systemize and
yeah,
kind of take a load off your plate. So not kind of hiring quickly enough, but then some people are on the other end of the spectrum where they're like, actually, you know what, I've got a bit of money now, I need a VA, but what's the VA going to do? I have no idea. Everyone talks about a
yeah,
VA. I need an appointment setter, or I need a commission only closer, or I need to run ads. And when the foundations are not strong, when they've not done things themselves that they can put into an SOP and then pass it on to someone, standard operating procedure, for those who don't know what an SOP is,
yeah,
that's when they're going too fast. And again, the
yeah,
the parts of the car, they come apart. They literally come
yeah.
apart when they're moving at that speed, because it's just not been built properly. So there's so many mistakes that people make. But the biggest one, and I'm sure Frankie, with the people that you've worked with, it's starting with that focus on who do I serve and how do I serve them. And this
It
is the
sounds so
question that
simple, but honestly, it's. I'll tell you, like mentally, the hardest thing is usually it actually comes from a good place because we want to help everybody.
yeah.
And what ends up happening though is if you try and help everybody, you end up helping nobody because you get all this like little custom piddly fucking work. And then what ends up happening is it's delivering it is such a nightmare that you never really help more than like 5-10 people at a time. And as
And
where
you're
when you build,
scared. You're scared to take on more people as well.
yeah,
I've been there where I'm like, I'm frightened to ask people for work because I'm already drowning.
exactly. Exactly. And you end up with a lot of people who can end up unhappy with you. It's funny. I remember actually when I was doing that, I had a client who they said to me, now bear in mind, behind the scenes, I'm working 80 to 100 hours a week, every fucking week to keep this thing afloat. And I didn't know anything about structure and any of that. So like, I'm doing all custom work. I'm doing literally something different for everybody, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, as you mentioned
Hmm.
it. And I had a client said to me, like, I think you're really good. And when you apply yourself, like you're really, but you just seem kind of lazy to me. And I was, and because they saw their one little piece where I'm working like
Yeah.
5 hours a week as hard as I can on their thing. And,
Hmm.
what they didn't understand is like, well, I'm doing 5 hours a week times like, 5 to 10 hours a week times 10 of you guys.
Exactly.
And I'm losing my goddamn mind in that. And interestingly enough, when you like I said, when you start with a deliverable and an SOP, as you've mentioned, and you start the journey 90% finished, they have the opposite effect. They think you're doing so much for them.
Yeah,
and you're like,
you're right. How did you turn this around so quickly? You know, like my last guy took 2 months to build a website, and he was one of the ones half as good as yours.
Shit, it wasn't half as good as yours, and you're calling me back in 2 hours. I kind of feel like that guy was a joke now that I look back at that. Of course, he was reinventing the wheel every single time, and all of that. And as you mentioned, I see this as well. To your other point, where people come in and say, I know how nice it would be, especially if you're in the freelancer stage and you don't like selling and you haven't figured it out, just how beautiful and nice it would be if you could just turn it over to a closer or an appointment setter, and they would just take that work off your plate and it would just magically disappear. But the problem is, like one of my mentors says, is like effective before efficient. And so you can't train somebody to do that process until you yourself have mapped it out. You can automate it and put people and take yourself out of it after it's working. But if you haven't sold 5 people in it, then there's no way somebody's going to be able to walk in. I shouldn't say no way, but it's very extremely rare where a salesperson will walk in and say, oh, your offer is broken. Let me fix it for you. We'll fix that. And they'll just go out and sell it for you and take care of your biggest problem. It usually doesn't work like that. What ends up happening is you bring somebody in hoping, they can make your life easier. And then it seems like none of them know how to sell, or none of them know how to deliver it. And I'll hear things like, it's just easier to do it myself. And then the minute you have like, here's a sample phone call, go listen to it. Here's our process. Here's our offer. Here's our payment terms. Here's how we're prospecting. Go follow these steps. Suddenly, like 8 out of 10 virtual assistants you hire will be able to do that right out of the box, because they have step-by-step, stuff they can follow. In the same way that McDonald's doesn't walk in and say, okay, you got to know how to make hamburgers and French fries. They have very rigid systems and processes for doing that. And then they bring in employee help after that.
Yeah, no, I think I need to make a get rich quick scheme around the McDonald's model, right? Build a McDonald's agency out of the box.
But it's so true, right? Because McDonald's worked their ass off to get that one agent or that one location running. But then when they copy and paste it, there's probably very little work for now, like when they're in Beijing, China, to just throw up a McDonald's.
No, you're right. You're right. I've actually looked into getting a McDonald's franchise, right? So I ordered the pack and whatnot. So you have to go to HQ to train up. Yeah. You got to, they've got how you mop the floor down to a T as well. So it's not just about serving Big Mac and fries and hamburger and fries. You got to mop the floor the way they do it, which is kind of a safe way to kind of prevent spillages and customers getting hurt.
Yep. Somebody shit on the floor, make sure you mop left to right.
Wax on, wax off, right?
Yeah, actually, one of my smartest entrepreneurial mentors said his employees used to joke that he had a process for going to the bathroom, but it's really very much like that when you get to that level. And not necessarily like to scare you guys into thinking about like you have to have all this set up on day one, because you don't. Those of you guys, I know you're a freelancer, but to give you a preview of what's coming, because not enough people, by the way, think about like, if you're in the beginning, it'd be really nice to have some money and replace your job. That's all I was thinking about. Yeah. But what ends up happening is if you only think about that, then you build it the wrong way, and then it doesn't sustain itself. So there's nothing worse than, like, for me, that magic number was like, if I could just make 50 grand a year, like I would not need a boss, and that would be fucking amazing. But then you get there, and because it's set up wrong, like, the clients fall off, or you lose it, or the one-time projects and things like that. And then you end up back at 20 grand a month, or 20 grand a year rather, trying to figure out how to, get past that stage. And what you're talking about is like, now let's build it one time right the first time and get to 100 grand a year, and then from there it's a launching platform to however big you want to bring it. Like, different people have different lifestyle numbers. Like, some people want to build $1 million agencies. I think most people probably would just be content with like 100 to 250 grand and have like a cool lifestyle.
Well, that's it. I think, when we're a lot younger, we want to hit the 7 figures, 8 figures as you kind of get a family and you get kids along the way. You're like, actually, you know what? I just want the freedom to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want to. Yeah, exactly. It's not
wake up when I want. If I don't want to work that day and I want to stay in bed, fuck it, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So like a lot of people that, especially these newbies, right, that are on the market that want to build an agency, and they've got their own reasons. And I find usually they're at two ends of the spectrum. One, they're leaving college and they don't want to get a job, right? They want to be their own boss from the get-go. And then I find the kind of the midlifers who actually are in a job, but they're not getting fulfillment, and they know, they've heard that the agency business could be something that they could set up on the side, and then, you know, build a nice little college fund or a retirement fund for them, or something that they can switch into in 12 to 18 months time. So they have the patience and the perseverance. So, you know, the question that I always kind of ask people who are struggling, who come to me like, I can't get a client, I ask them, well, who are you serving and how do you serve them? And I'm telling you, 95% of them have no clue how to answer that question.
Any
Right? The
business
ones
owner
that,
anywhere who wants marketing.
well, yeah, or, you know, I run Facebook ads for realtors or something like that. Like, come on, you know, no realtor wants Facebook ads, right?
Yeah.
If you go and speak to a real realtor, right? Forget about the Facebook groups that you see all of the other marketers are converging in. Go speak to a realtor and actually see what they want, and then find the solution that is going to get them to where they want to go, right?
Yeah.
Facebook ads, it's just the plane. It's not the sandy beaches where people want to get to.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it's a huge mindset shift for a lot of people who are getting started. You know, those who are actually making revenue, yes, you might need to do a bit of work on their infrastructure, but, you know, you jiggle it about and then you get kind of that exponential growth. You know, they can literally go from 10,000 to 50,000 in a month just by making some of the tweaks, and then they productize their service, they have that transformational offer, and then it becomes a matter of how many fucking doors can you knock on, or how many doors can you get knocked on by someone else, and then bringing them through this kind of proven closing process. But those people who are starting out, they just want to do often too many things too quickly, that they don't do the homework. Because even if you want to build a house, right, you need to apply for the permits, you need to do the architectural drawings, you need to build the foundations, and, you know, and building the foundations probably takes the longest amount of time to get it right, to dig deep. And then when the brick wall goes up, it actually goes up a lot easier when you've got the foundations right, you know, and then the rest of the windows, the doors, they go in a lot easier. But a lot of people have it totally wrong on the foundation side. They feel that, you know, actually I'll buy a course and then I'll copy and paste all the crap in there. I'll take the same email templates. I'll pick the same 10 niches that the course creator is suggesting. And, you know, what kind of tends to happen is they get no response, because they're all going to the same lead sources to drink from the same lead sources,
the same channel,
same bloody email.
I've actually seen this. Somebody told me they took a Ty Lopez course about getting general contractors for social media marketing.
Right.
And there was a template he had that worked in the beginning, and then like 100,000 marketers bought the same course. So like 100,000 marketers send the same message without even changing it. Like it tends to be a little less effective after that.
Well, that's it. And then Ty Lopez takes your money and goes and buys Radio Shack and all of these other e-commerce companies that they're picking up. But no, that's it. I mean, I think even when you're looking from an email deliverability perspective, once the ISPs, they pick up the same emails going out, it gets classed as spam. You're not going to even land in anybody's inbox. So you need to radically take a different approach. And the people that I kind of work with, I tell them my biggest challenge is to help you to think in the right way, right? I'm not going to teach you anything that is going to be a revolutionary new tactic. I've not got magic beans that are going to give you a beanstalk. But, you know, I'm going to show you my way.
Who doesn't have magic beans?
Well, that's it, right? I mean, everything that I'm going to tell you about, you've probably heard of it before, but what I'm going to show you is how you take the ingredients and then how you bring the recipe so you don't kind of, you know, burn
and
the
also
cake.
Mostly so you don't have to have like 50 or 100 failed pies, that you can get it like your third time, and that's a lot more fun.
Absolutely. Because I think, you know, with those who are starting out, they are quite underserved, because what they can really invest in most of the time is like a course, $400, $500, even $1,500, where the support is very limited as well. After they've made the purchase, they go into a funnel and they're being upsold without them having done any work, whereas those who are actually serious, they know they need the guidance, they need someone who's been kind of through the process themselves, who's taken others through the process, who can then kind of give them some sort of a roadmap. Again, the roadmaps that I create, it's customization, right? 90% I know what they need to do, then you just tweak it, that 10% to what's going to really move the needle for them. And I've literally had people go from not knowing how to deliver a service to, or not knowing who they want to serve, to signing a client within 4 days, cash paid in advance because they collect the money in advance. Then I've had people, collect a number of clients in the first 30 days because they have this laser-like focus that when they are kind of going out to pitch, they have clarity in what they offer. They have clarity in their messaging. They stand out from all of these other agencies that are talking about ROAS and Facebook ads and ROI and, kind of throwing a generic pitch out there.
Bullshit everybody else is doing.
The same bullshit, absolutely. You need to become that category of one, create your own blue ocean, present yourself, as the category king or the category queen.
And I can tell you firsthand, like a story I just mentioned on the Q&A, like my experience when I used to say, hey, I sell SEO to anyone, nobody ever was like, it was never like a rock performer. They like threw their bra at you and said, here's all my money. Like that never happened. But when I said things like in the plastic surgery space, like, hey, we can build you a mommy makeover website and rank it for mommy makeover keywords so that you get mommy makeover patients, I had a very hard time not collecting credit cards pretty quickly. And it's the same basic service to the same basic people, but like you said, it's a very focused kind of transformational offer. And,
absolutely, you got to be that laser guided missile.
And it also made it like a bunch easier to talk to them because like we knew who we were talking to, what it was about, why they would want it, instead of just like, hey, do you want SEO? It's pretty fucking cool.
Exactly. And you get to develop a deep understanding of the market as well, just by working with the people, understanding their desires, because they're going to have the same problems over and over again. And then when you go into a room to pitch someone and you show that you understand the language of the market, that you understand kind of the problems that they're facing, the regulatory issues and all of that, that is the true expert that someone wants on their side. I see people who are sending messages to doctors and kind of plastic surgeons and cosmetic surgeons saying, I can get you more clients, whereas the language these people use is not clients. They want patients, right? Exactly. So you've kind of shot yourself with the first script that you've used because you are speaking a language that is alien to them, right? And often these people, they've worked hard because they want to serve, and service comes first. They don't work in the language of ROI and ROAS and whatnot. They probably don't know how much profit they're making until they're
you could show them a fucking 10-to-1 ROAS and they wouldn't even know what the fuck it means.
No, you're absolutely right. They're going to wait for that kind of tax filing document to figure out this is how much money I've actually made that I can, bank and put in my savings account.
Yeah, we actually had just somebody in our thing who serves like studios. And when they were first talking, it was like, I'll bring you more clients like everybody else. I'm like, what does that mean to them? Well, it means like somebody's going to walk into their yoga studio and roll up a mat and do a downward dog in front of them and pay them $99. I'm like, that's what you need to tell them, not.
Yeah, exactly. It's and even some of the language, it's just like, I kind of, my heart sinks when someone sends me a friend request and I go into their profile and I see the banner, right? We get you clients, without paid ads, without funnels, all organically, as if that's something to pitch.
And the thing is, like, you can't tell who it's for and why they want it, and almost always it's like you said, almost always the problem is they're aiming too big instead of realizing that, like, one of my mentors says specificity prints cash. And when you understand that, you stop trying to be all things to all people, because you'll actually get paid far more. I used to see this in the plastic surgery space. There was a top competitor called Mednet, and they made websites for plastic surgeons before everybody else. Like, they were the first one in that niche, basically. And they charge $40,000 for a website, and it's only a lease that you would own for 2 years. Oh, wow. And at the end of those 2 years, you would have to renew if you wanted to work with them. Wow. And you would think, how the fuck could they charge that? Like, but the plastic surgeon thinks, well, it's a very high ticket niche. They think, well, if I get 2 people in 2 years, I've paid for that website, so that's worth it to me. And that's an example, right? Like, if they were just still, hey, we do web design, they'd probably be struggling to get $600 for a custom WordPress site from their and uncle, but once they have clarity, like, hey, we make plastic surgery websites to bring plastic surgery patients, they can look somebody in the face and charge them 40 grand and get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all they'll need to say is you just need to get 2 patients over the course of the year or 2
Yeah.
years. And if you don't, you know what, we'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
That makes it a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Absolutely no-brainer,
Totally. Abul, just because we're coming up a little bit on time here because my kids
Oh,
are
yes,
about to
sir.
go. Want to talk a little bit about your program for those of you who are interested. I think we both love working with agency owners because it's a very fulfilling thing to be at this 15, 20 years and to be able to take your hard lessons and share somebody. I want to talk firstly, just you mentioned a little bit off air, the right fit for if somebody is, not somebody who, just started this on their last 50 bucks. We love you guys too, but usually somebody has a little bit of cash to start the business, understand that it's probably going to take you 6 months of like learning how to ride the bike without giving up. Like you're not just going to send 4 emails and get rich. But once you learn how to close people in those kind of messages, like you can do that again and again and again. And somebody who understands, you're going to have to invest like time, and we don't mean you have to like be 80 hours a week at a job. That's just because we did it the dumb way, not knowing any better. But you gotta put in your 1 to 3 hours a day. You really do. Like it doesn't just magically come together. And where necessary, understands you'll have to invest in tools or software or things. And like you put it, it's I don't even want to say it's a get rich quick slow, but it's not an instant get rich quick do nothing. It's more just like if you put in the effort, it's a proven process. It works. It's worked for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
The lifestyle really is real, but you gotta learn how to ride the bike, and you gotta fall down a few times. And somebody like you can help them fall down far, far less on the bike by seeing what where the blind spots are. Let's talk about somebody who wants to work with you. What's next? What they need to do? Any of that stuff.
You've summed up, the ideal client for me very, very nicely there. If someone wants to kind of start an agency because they want to really take control of their life, because when I started like coaching with the agency owners, I thought I'm going to pick up people who are already making money, but most of the people who have come to me has been those who wanted to get started. And it's actually been really fulfilling to kind of, give someone that eureka moment that actually, I can really go somewhere with this, right?
Can I just really cut you off once more and say it is the single biggest change in your life when you have more than you would make on a job and you realize you never need a job again. Like it is for real. Like it's quite the leap of faith. So we really honor it. Anyway, sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. But no, if you're serious about this and you're kind of, you've got the right mindset and you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you can invest a little bit in a coach and in some of the tools. We're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars to buy a franchise or open a store. Then find me on Facebook and let's have a chat. And if I can't help you, I'll show you the resources. I've got tons of resources that I can send your way so that you can get started in your own pace. So reach out to me on Facebook and I look forward to speaking to some of you.
And I'll just add as a little bonus, we did a little free workshop for a couple people in similar situations for getting your first few clients when you don't have case studies and stuff already. Like it's a lot easier when you can say I've worked with 10 lawyers and these all lawyers love me and who have changed their lives. Obviously that's an easier sell to clients than like, well, you're the first one. And so there's a way to manage like you're the first one in a very like intelligent way where you can kind of de-risk it for them and get them a chance to do it. I've got that workshop recorded. I will also, if you guys are interested in working with Abul, I will throw in that workshop as a free bonus because I know you guys will get some good stuff out of it.
Awesome.
All right, my man. Well, I think that's all we got for time. I've really, really appreciated this. I know this is.
I've enjoyed this. I've had so much fun coming on, Frankie. It's good to kind of finally connect. And again, speak to an OG. Honestly, there's only a few of us around.
Yeah, that's how it's real. It's just in 20 years we haven't given up, right? Like that's the real testament right there. It's like there's lots of bumps and bruises along the way, but the longer you do this, the more you just kind of see those things. And it really is, I'll tell you, just on a personal level, like, I wrote my book and my thinking with it is like, if I just help one person going through the same shit I was going, that would be really cool. That would be a good enough reason to write a book. Like a lot of people want to become a best-selling author. And it's been amazing. Like at least 3 or 4 times a week, I get somebody to you changed my life. in my inbox, and it is super cool. So we love helping you guys. We love seeing you guys
Absolutely.
win because we know what a difference it makes. It's work, but it's amazing when your clients are happy and the machine is rolling and you're getting clients and you're spending most of the day at the beach and your machine is doing the heavy lifting and the payments are coming in through the Stripe or the PayPal or whatever you're using. And you don't have to wake up and have an alarm clock, and you get to live on your own terms, and nobody tells you what to do or when to do it, and you get to be like totally autonomous in your lifestyle. There's a real change, and that's what Abul is helping you guys to achieve, and I wholeheartedly support that. So that's all the time we got, my friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll put a link below to his Facebook if you guys are interested and you fit that profile and you think you could benefit from what he's got to offer.